You're listening to the Truck Talk with Trivista podcast, brought to you by TrivistaCompanies.com, the ultimate source for all things trucking, and sponsored by Shireman Construction, generations of craftsmanship built into everything they do. I'm Anita Massey, Director of Marketing for Trivista Companies. Thanks for joining us. Today our topic is vocational business paving. The paving industry is huge and growing, and asphalt mixtures are used to pave country roads, city streets, interstate highways, parking lots, airports, biking and walking trails, and all kinds of other paved surfaces throughout the nation. Today we'll be joined by Kevin Gray, President of ADC PAving, a company offering a wide variety of commercial and residential paving services throughout the Commonwealth of Kentucky since 1959. And also Chris Mann, severe service salesman for Uhl Truck Sales, one of the many dealerships within Trivista Companies. Welcome, gentlemen. It's great to have you here today to discuss the exciting industry of paving and learn more about how international trucks play a role in this very important work.
Thank you so much for having us. We're happy to be here.
So Kevin, why don't we start with you telling us a little bit about your company and the various services you perform?
Sure. We are a third-generation family-owned and operated business. My wife's grandfather started the business back in 1959. Her aunt ran it from 1980 to 2011, and then we took over ownership in 2011, and we are a full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. We do a small portion of our business is residential work. We're trending and phasing more into the commercial realm, and we operate three crews. We've got a prep crew that does our base work, our cleaning work, our preparatory work, and then we've also got a paving division and a seal coating division. So we are your local full service one-stop shop.
That's great. I know I saw on your website you've been named top asphalt contractor for the past 5 years now. So talk a little bit about what you attribute your success to.
Yeah, and I think it's a pretty simple answer there, and it comes down to our people. We've owned the business since 2011, and we've had a pretty, fierce motivation to find the right kind of people, find good people, regardless of their talent level or skill set. We're of the mindset that if we can find good people, that we can train them, we can develop them, we can kind of create the culture that we're looking for at ADC that hopefully stands out from others in our industry locally and even nationwide. So it's definitely the people, and then it's preaching to them. Talk a lot about pride and passion, and taking a team of individuals who are committed to doing whatever it takes to be the best.
Exactly. I think that's true for most companies. Even here at Trivista Companies, our people are our biggest asset, and we take great pride in keeping them trained and, up to speed on the latest technologies and all that sort of thing. So completely agree with you on that. So tell me, does ADC Paving work with municipalities and deliver asphalt for new roads throughout the state of Kentucky?
We do not. We do primarily private work. Okay. So that's, privately owned property, streets and roads. We do street and road paving, and mainly that's for streets and roads and subdivisions that may be owned by an HOA or a group or board of directors. So yes and no, not necessarily for municipalities, but we do offer those services.
Okay, so I guess that would include then repair work like pothole repairs, patching.
Sure. That
kind of stuff too.
Sure. Yeah,
okay.
We do. We, like I said, we're full service. We do patch repair, and we also do crack sealing, seal coating, striping.
Okay, great. So I know you work with Chris Mann here at Uhl Truck Sales when you're speccing your trucks. Tell me, what is it that you typically look for? Are there any particular features that are most important to you, axles, tires, or anything in particular?
Yeah, the biggest thing when looking at trucking or any other piece of equipment that we implement into our business, the biggest thing we're trying to achieve is maximum efficiencies, maximum production. How can we fine-tune our logistics in order to better our margins? So, and we've gone, when we took over the company in 2011, it had historically been a residential driveway company that had only operated with single-axle trucks for decades. So we took the leap into, kind of the tandem truck a few years back. We've got a few of those in our fleet now. And we have recently added a triaxle to our fleet as well. So we're trying to move as much material as efficiently as possible is the name of the game.
Got it. Okay. Now, do you typically buy new or used trucks, or is it a mix?
We've been down the road of buying used trucks, and we've found that there is some value to doing that, especially as you're growing and cash flow may not be as great. But I think when at the end of the day, and a big part of the reason we shop and buy new trucks now is not only they come with the warranty, they come they're new, what they are from the factory, but then when you team with a company like UL and Trivista and you've got the service department and the relationship there with buying these new trucks. I mean, that's a big piece of the brands we choose to buy is what kind of relationship we're going to get.
That's true, and I'm assuming that when you do come in to make your purchase from Chris, he's probably introduced you to our service department manager and our parts manager, so you know the guys you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
Normally what I do, if Kevin does have a small issue or something like that, is I usually have his truck foreman or Kevin call me himself so I can go ahead and let the service department know, hey, look, ADC's coming in here. You try to get them in, get them out. They've got a big job they got to do. And Kevin really emphasizes that, hey, I've got to have my truck, because without him having a truck to lay his asphalt down, his business is shut down for that small period of time.
Sure.
And, I've been out on Kevin's job sites, talked with his foremans, Kevin, his drivers, and when it came to speccing these tandems out, Kevin said, I want a truck that anybody can jump in and drive. They can be comfortable. They're not wore out at the end of the day, and I have peace of mind knowing that it's going to be ready to go the next day. So that's goes a lot into speccing their trucks too. If a driver's not comfortable in his truck and he's ready to go home after he's been in it 2 or 3 hours a day, it's not good for Kevin. He has driver turnover, and drivers are hard to find. So he's not scared to spend the money to spec a truck to keep a guy in it as long as it works for him. And we try to keep him with as much uptime as possible.
That makes perfect sense. And I don't know a lot about this, but just last week, actually, I was up at Navistar's Proving Grounds, and I was driving an HX, which I'm not a dump truck operator by any stretch, but I did get the chance to drive it through the rough terrain, and I could see why it's important to have all of that technology built into the seat and the shocks to keep the driver more comfortable, because 8 hours of that kind of rough terrain is going to beat you up pretty good.
So. Takes a toll on your body throughout the day.
So I guess, Kevin, talk a little bit about what do you think about what they call driver-first technology that Navistar has introduced. Features like having controls and switches that can be easily operated while wearing gloves in cold weather, for example, or the C-loop mirrors that they've designed to reduce the driver's head turn movement. Do you feel that these features make the truck more comfortable for your drivers, and how important is that when you're looking to make your purchase?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a big piece, and Chris just hit on that there are driving jobs all over this town, all over the nation, and if you can't offer a good truck to a driver with these kind of technologies and comforts and making their life easier while they're on the clock for 8 to 12 hours a day, they're going to go find somewhere else to work that can provide them a truck with these options. So it's a huge piece in the way that you guys has kept up with the times and putting these things on the trucks and in the trucks to really stand out in the industry. I mean, it really is good for attracting new drivers and then retaining drivers long term.
It goes back to what you said earlier of what's made you successful and get to the point to where you're at. You're making a large investment in these trucks and these drivers, but yet you're getting the investment back from your driver to be there every day to perform his job duties for you. So,
yeah,
you got to do what you got to do to keep these guys happy.
That's right.
And then you get the result in the end, and getting your job complete and having a good job, and your customers happy at the end.
Yeah, that's right.
So you're actually getting feedback from your drivers then, where they come to you and say, hey, I really like this truck, or I want to ride in this truck today. They specify that.
Yeah, and that's that's kind of that's a big piece of why we kind of stopped going that used route. And it's these trucks, when they do get used and they start getting to their lifespan, they're hard to maintain. They're hard to stay on top of. And we bought a couple new trucks 3 years ago and had 2 older trucks, and the guys that were in the older trucks were like, man, we really want to be in the new trucks. And we were finding that the guys that were in the older trucks, we were turning turning those drivers over pretty frequently because they were having to deal with a bumpy ride or mechanical issues or just stuff that they don't want to have to deal with day in and day out. They want to come and drive and do their job and be able to do it. So
exactly. Yep. Yeah, and with the challenge that all industries are facing right now with driver shortages, you have to do, like Chris was saying, everything you can to keep those drivers happy. So
absolutely.
It's good to hear that you're doing that. What about the interior of the truck as far as roominess? The HX is good in that regard?
Oh, they're great.
Okay.
Yep, top notch.
So you may have touched on this, but tell me again, what kind of equipment do you currently have in your fleet? Is it mostly triaxle or is it just single axle?
We have 4 tandem axles now, so we've totally eliminated the single axle. We don't operate any single axle dump trucks, so we have 4 tandem axles, and then just within the last 2 months, we bought a brand new shiny triaxle, which has been a big boost to our fleet. We started with the tandem because it was a big bump from the single axle up to the tandem as far as hauling capacity at that price point. So that worked really well for us, and now we're seeing that we can even push it a little further with the triaxle to get a few more tons of material on the truck to just help our efficiencies. So
that's exactly what it goes back to, is efficiency. So Kevin's early on challenges with the single axles was he was limited to 8 to 10 tons on that truck, and then when he made the jump up, that's 8 or 10 tons, and if he's on a big pour, then that's multiple trips that those single axles have to keep making. But when he jumped to the tandem, he's now increased from 8 to 10 ton. He's increased that from a 15 to a 20 ton.
Oh wow, that's a big difference.
Yes, it is. That's an extra trip that single axle would have had to make that he's carrying on one. So now this triaxle has increased that from an 18 to 20 ton to a 20 to 24 ton.
Right.
So he's almost getting 2 loads. He's getting a load and a half with the triaxle versus the tandem, which is a good full load, which would have been 2 small loads on the single axle. So he's increased his production, having his guys being effective, and he can move on to the next job. It helps him out meet his deadlines because he can haul more capacity.
Exactly. So the money spent for the truck purchase is more than offsetting itself in a very short period of time.
Correct.
By the increased volume of work.
You're getting 3 times the load on a tri opposed to a single axle, and you take in wear on your tires and fuel and the trips they're having to make back and forth to the plant, or the savings long term. Even the initial investment or the sticker shock of moving up to a big truck like that may look daunting, but if you really run the numbers and crunch your business numbers into it, it makes a lot of sense.
It really helps you on your time management. You're not paying a guy to ride up and down the road 3 trips when you're paying him to go do one. So that's where it's at. The bottom line, being in the black's where it matters. So
that's a good point, Chris. Everybody wants to be in the black.
That's exactly right.
No kidding.
Oh, yes.
Especially in the paving business, right?
So what about maneuverability of the international trucks? Do they perform well for you in that regard when you're on a tight job site?
Oh, they're great. Yeah, they're great. Yeah.
Good turning radius and all that.
Fantastic.
That is one discussion we had when Kevin was speccing his trucks. He said, "Hey, Chris, you've been in the dump truck business a while, and these trucks." He says, "Man, my biggest challenge is these trucks not being able to turn around in these short parking lots. I've already laid my road base down and things like this, and here I am, I'm having to roll it back because the guy just rolled the base back up, or even sometimes they have no choice but to get on the new asphalt that they laid." So, that's one of the things we had to do, and I said, "Kevin, look, our HX has the best turning radius in the industry. It's got a 40-degree roll cut to the right and to the left." So Kevin's like, "Man, you got to get me on board with that. I've got to quit double working myself just to lay asphalt down." So we chose the HX 620, and
that's his most recent purchase, the HX 620.
Yes, ma'am. And it's just so much easier. The driver doesn't have to back up 4 or 5 times. That truck just turns phenomenal. It's crazy how tight it turns. And they love it. Those guys don't have to keep backing up. The guy on the paver's not get frustrated waiting on him to get in it or anything like that. They can boogie and go.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the clean cab to axle configuration that Navistar's come out with? Any comments on that?
Yeah, it makes it super easy to add additional features, later on down the road if you want, like a toolbox or lift axles. It's just a clean setup that gives you the versatility to add on as you grow.
And then I know we talked a little bit earlier, but the Huck bolt chassis fasteners, what about those? Are you a fan of those?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to use. They're durable. They don't really require any maintenance. And
Stronger clamping force.
Yeah, the clamping force. Yeah, so they're awesome.
Has Chris talked to you at all about our remote diagnostics on-command connection? Are you a fan of that or using that yet?
We have talked about it, and I think hopefully over the winter months when we slow down just a bit, we can dive into that. I'm very interested to see what all that entails, and looking forward to putting that service to work as well.
It's a pretty powerful.
One of the things, yeah, excuse me for interrupting, but one of the things we talked about on that, sometimes a driver doesn't give a good description of if there's a fault code or something going on with the truck. And with us talking with Kevin about this will allow Kevin to say, hey, Chris, pull this up in on command. Not really sure what's going on. He's complaining about a little power and the lights on or something. Or Kevin can even look at it himself on his phone. It's visible there, and he can say, hey, look, it looks like there's something wrong with the fuel water separator. Maybe we need to change it or something like that. And it goes ahead and gives us a heads up, too, here for the service department. Or for something that Kevin's guys can even change in the field really quick. So it's, to minimize his downtime.
Exactly. So do you have other trucks besides International brand in your fleet currently?
We do. We have two of our older tandems are Mack.
Okay. So the on-command connection, I know it's an all makes diagnostics tool, so that could even help with your Mack trucks as well. So definitely something to think about. So I'm just curious, I know Chris has done a bang-up job for you on the sales side of things and taking care of your needs that way. What about just servicing your trucks? I know we've done some maintenance for you. Have we done a good job, maintaining your trucks, and have we helped you with mobile maintenance at all when you're on the job site? Or
Absolutely, and that's why we keep coming back to UL and doing business with Chris. It's and that's how we want to feel from all of our vendors and our people that we have relationships, whether it's on the equipment side, the trucking side, the material side. We want to be, we got to be a team. We got to work together, and we got to have that mutual respect and understanding that, hey, we're in this together. We need partners in this industry for us to be successful, and that's why I'm pretty loyal to this brand.
That's great. Love to hear that. So I guess overall you would say, how would you rate the International HX models against the other competition?
They're very strong. We've demoed several other the competitors out there, the big name players, and this truck it stacks up right there with them, if not better. We've absolutely just been impressed with them.
Great. So how many years did you say you've been buying International trucks?
I guess it's, going back, 5 years or so. We got a couple single axle used trucks off the used fleet back in, I guess it was 14 or 15, 16, and then we purchased the new tandems back in 2017, and then the recent triaxle. So we've been, and when we went from the single axles and switched to international, the old single axles were the GMC top kicks or the Fords. So we hadn't really married with a big player like a Mack or a Kenworth or International, and we checked them all out, and this is the one we were drawn to. So
glad to hear that. So I guess you kind of answered my next question. What is it that keeps you coming back for more International trucks? I guess you just feel like the quality's there.
I do.
The service that you get here from UL is good.
And our drivers love them. That's another big piece, and we talked about that. So you put those three things together, and it's a pretty good formula for success.
Exactly. Well, guys, we're nearing the end of our time today. Is there anything else you'd like to add that we didn't discuss?
I don't. Kind of going on what I just said. I think a lot of people in the industry may not be as familiar with the International brand. A lot of people that have been doing this for generations, and it's been passed through their families, or their dad did, or their grandfather did it. Everybody talks about the Mack or the Kenworth or the Peterbilt, and it's like these trucks are as good, if not better than those today. So it's like if you haven't demoed one, or you haven't taken a serious look at getting into this International brand, I think it's worthwhile for sure.
Great. Appreciate you mentioning that. Well, Kevin and Chris, this has been a fun and informative discussion, and I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day, certainly, to educate our listeners on how the international truck plays such an important role in the paving industry that you're in. So thanks again.
Absolutely, my pleasure, yeah.
Anytime, enjoyed the discussion.
Glad to have you. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Truck Talk with Trivista podcast. You can find more podcast talks or general information about Trivista Companies and its many dealerships at trivistacompanies.com. Until next time, be safe out there.